SDO Siargao, kalidad na edukasyon sa tanan panahon.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Day 2 sessions of this series of webinars on learning resource development process. On behalf of the Division LR team of DPED Siargao, we would like to express our heartfelt thanks and gratitude for the full support of everybody. Yesterday, we ended the day with 846 subscribers, 958 registered participants, 327 likes, and 4,406 views. We are blessed because we have the full support of our school's division superintendent, Dr. Nelia S. Lumokso, our OIC Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, and the SGO, the Chief, Dr. Harem L. Tarot, the Chief of the Curriculum Implementation Division, Dr. Jemna G. Pobi, the Education Program Supervisors, Public School District Supervisors, the SGO, the staff, with the non-teaching personnel of the division, the school heads, and teachers. With what we have achieved yesterday, let me say thank you so much and to God be the glory.
To start off, let's give tribute to our country and tribute to God.
Humihingi, sumasamo, dalangin namin pakinggan mo sa lahat ng sakuna ito. Ikaw ang Diyos na makapangyarihan, ikaw ang Diyos sang nilikha. Pakinggan mo ang iyak ng aming puso, pakinggan mo ang iyak ng bawat tao na sa'yo sumasamo. Pakinggan mo. Humihingi sa'yo ng awa, kami patawarin sa aming sala, sa lahat ng aming ginawa. Ikaw ang Diyos na makapangyarihan, ikaw ang Diyos sang nilikha. Pakinggan mo ang iyak ng aming puso, pakinggan mo ang iyak ng bawat taong nasa'yo'y sumasamo. Pakinggan mo ang iyak ng aming puso, pakinggan mo ang iyak ng bawat taong nasa'yo sumasamo. Pakinggan mo. Oh, pakinggan mo. Pakinggan mo ang aming dalangin, Panginoon, sa aming bansa, para sa aming
As scheduled, we have only one topic for discussion this morning, and it is module writing. We are thankful that we have with us the Area Director, Administrator of Spoyer School of Life, one of the private schools of DepEd Siargao. Fellow educators, please help me welcome Miss Jerlyn Racaba.
Hi, I'm Jerlyn Racaba, the School Administrator of Espoa School of Life. We aim to provide quality and free education and give livelihood to the families in an underserved communities in the Philippines. For today's discussion, we will be talking about module writing. So in module writing, we have the procedure in materials development. We all know that an effective instruction begins with systematic planning and designing. So according to Gagne, instructional materials design and development is the arrangement of resources and procedures used to promote learning. That's why we need to have planning. We need to have the development after that, and then field tryout, as well as evaluation, and then after that, if time permits, we can have a revision and finalization. Now let's talk about the stages of materials development one by one. So the first one is planning. So for planning, planning is the preparatory period. This is where everything begins. So we need to decide on the unit theme that we want, and we need to formulate the unit goal and specific objectives for each lesson or subtopic. On our case, DepEd gave us the MELC for our basis, so we will be following that one. And then after that, we need to determine the competencies of the target users. So in MELC, it is already given, as you've seen in the example below. So for the planning, we just need to understand and comprehend on the specific details that is in MELC. So next is we need to, of course, when we determine the competencies of the target user, you'll know the skills that they need. So that is very important. And of course, we need also to use the materials effectively. This will ensure the appropriate difficulty and levels of the materials we will be using. Because if we don't do the first stage in planning, which is deciding on the unit theme, unit goal, and specific objectives, and determining the competencies, maybe the next steps will go wrong, especially on the materials that we will be using in our modules. So that's planning. Next one is development. So development is the production phase. This is where we will be doing our modules. So we identify the selections, what materials are we going to use. We choose the available materials. If we have materials from our books before, we can use that. We need to modify them, or we can write our own and use variety of genre like the one below. Those are storytelling, poem, essays, drama, dialogues. Of course, we can also get from excerpts of journal, diaries, letters, biographies, documentaries, news items, audio and video materials. But of course, again, on our planning stage, we need to fit the interest level of the student that we will be teaching on the materials that we will be using. So that's development. Next is field tryout. In field tryout, we are evaluating by observing the potential users as they go through and they scan our instructional materials. So we should prepare evaluation checklists to guide us in recording their reactions to the materials, because their reactions, the kids and students' reaction, is very important when we keep track on the evaluation, because we can see how they react to the modules that we are giving to them. Do you think it is interesting, it's engaging? How does their face looks like when they are scanning those materials that we gave them? So that's one way on how we can evaluate them. Another one is determine the time needed to finish the materials, and we need to make it sustainable to the learners, that it involves their interest. So the module should be engaging as possible. And then next is the difficulty of the selections used, because a good module should engage a student, and it should be leveled on their capacity as well. So if the selection that we use is a bit advanced or quite hard for them to understand, that's where evaluation is very important, because soon, if you think that the students are not coping up with the topics or the selections that you've chose or the materials that you put into the module, it's time for us to revise it or redo the examples that we've given to them. Next one is evaluation. So in evaluation, we need to check if the materials are effective for the students. So external evaluation of the materials may be done by teachers handling the same grade level you are working on. So provide them with the criteria for evaluating your materials. So we can have the example of the evaluation checklist that you can have is a 3-point rating scale, or a checklist, or a 3-level comment. So for example, is it super okay? Is it not so okay? Or should it needs revision? And then if it needs revision, or the kid says it's quite hard for them to understand, you ask them which part, because of course we will not revise all the content of the module that we made. So we must ask them which part are they having difficulty with. So that's for evaluation. Next one is the revision and finalization. So the data from the tryout and external evaluation may suggest some changes, deletion, insertion, or expansion to improve the materials. So after revising, you may want to try another field distribution of the materials to the potential users, and then check again on their reactions after getting those modules, if you have time and if the resources allows. But if not, it's okay to have at least one evaluation just to check on how the potential users reacts on the certain module. So here is the Assure model. So we have A for analyze your learner, which all of you teachers knows this already, I know. But we need to, clear these things up, because now is, we will not be doing face-to-face anymore. It's modular based. So this time, this is very much needed in doing our module. So you need to assess your students' needs. So how? We need to know their age, their grade level, their gender, and then their entry competencies, if they are readers or not. Because if they're not a reader, maybe we can put more photos, pictures, and prints. If they are readers, we can put reading materials already. or what is their learning style. So that's for the analysis of the learner. Next one is letter S. S is state your objective. So we state what your student are expected to do. So what do we want our student to do after reading this module? We need to be very clear on that. And then the condition of performance, and then the degree of acceptable performance. Because if we say that the student should learn a certain topic, learning is a very broad word. So we need to be very specific on what is the conditions of the performances of the kids, and to what degree is the acceptable performance, or what is the passing grade, what is the passing score. So it should be clear. Next one is letter S. Select your methods and materials. So select from available materials. Modify existing materials or design new materials and methods. So it's very important for us to have a lot of references, or if you don't want to copy the references of other books, we can make our own. It depends really on how you feel your module will flow. So if you want your module to be personalized, because you know that you know your students' capacity, you can make your own. But if you think that the available resources, like the textbooks before that DepEd have, we can of course use that. Next is letter U. Use the materials. Of course, when we make our module, we need to make sure that we will be using it. So, and also we prepare the equipment, the facilities needed. Of course, we need to preview the material and practice the implementation. So when we say use the material, we just don't give the module to the student, but we also teach them how to use it, how to properly kakat mo yan, ha? Ay, napagod ako. Okay. Okay, so after doing the materials, of course, we need to preview that on how do we deliver the modules to the students. Or, of course, we cannot do face-to-face, so we cannot teach them personally. So they need to know how to properly use the materials. So that is the use of materials. Next one, require learner participation. So it includes activity that will require your student to process knowledge, apply skills, and receive feedback. So in here, we don't just want to make a module based on what we want, but also we make module based on what our student needs, of course. So it should be engaging. Next is evaluation and revise, letter E. Find out if objective were realized. So was the objective okay? Was it specific? Was it clear? If the methods and materials were effective, then revise accordingly if it really needs revision or you need to add something more. Okay, next one is work plan. So now that we know the process, the stages of developing materials, we need to have a work plan. So this is very ideal, but of course you can revise this. You can do it on your own pace, or your school can do it on your plannings. So number one is planning. So what is the ideal thing to do during the planning? is number 1, identify your theme or the unit. Next is determine the scope and sequence. Also state your goal and objectives and know your target users. So, of course, we have different teachers on different grade levels. So, those people can go together and do their plannings, and other grade levels can also meet together and have their own work plan. Next one is development. So, choose the reading selections. Again, this should be appropriate on the level and capacity of the students. Next, determine their readability. So, can they read or they can't? Are they independent readers or non-readers? We need to know that because in module, it is designed as individualized learning. So, we don't know also if the parents would be able to, teach them, or the parents are can read or can write as well. So, we need to determine if the students can read or cannot. Next, so structure learning activities. We need to structure our learning activities based on a smooth flow. So we just don't put learning activities that is not connected to the topic, or not that engaging, or we just think that, oh, this is good to put, so let's put this. Of course, in developing, we structure learning activities. So next is develop instructional materials and assessment devices. In a modular approach, we cannot see our student answering the assessments that we are giving them. So we need to make sure that it is properly planned and properly developed, because we're not sure if the parents are the one answering it, or is it really the kids, or are they really learning? So it needs to be more practical and engaging. Next is the field tryout. So the ideal work plan for the field tryout is number 1, to prepare an observation guide. So if you give the modules to the students, how would you evaluate them based on their reactions? Next one is try the materials with potential users to determine if it's difficult, or it's easy, or it's just right. Or is it interesting? Is it engaging? Or is it effective and efficient? So basically, for the tryout, this might or can happen before, of course, we start our classes, because we wanted to make sure that what we will really give to our student is the right module for them. Next one is evaluation. So in evaluation, we develop criteria for evaluation, and then we ask experts to evaluate the materials. Of course, we will not ask science teachers to evaluate Filipino lessons, or language to mathematics. So we ask experts if we can and if the resources will allow us. Next one is the revision and finalization. So if we see that there's disalignment in the module and in the learner, we try to revise and finalize. That's why we field try out before the start of the classes, so that we can revise and finalize before we distribute it to the crowd. Next, so in module writing, there are 3 E's of instructional materials. Number 1, it should be economical. So if bond paper is a bit pricey, so let's use the lower class paper, but it should be economical. And of course, we want our student not to spend as much as possible. So next, it should be efficient. And of course, it should be effective. But other than that 3 E's, we can also add a lot of E's. So it can be engaging, it can be entertaining, it can be enjoyable. So let's try to make not just a module, but a module with a heart. because if it's engaging, entertaining, and enjoyable, the kids would love to scan the modules that we did. There. So, let's go to the templates of the module that we will be doing in our school. So, first part is the alamin. Next is subukin, balikan, tuklasin, suriin, pagyamanin, isaisip, isagawa, tayahin, at karagdagang gawain. So, ano-ano po yung mga ito? So, tingnan po natin. So, sa alamin, ito ay ang bahaging malalaman mo ang mga dapat mong matutunan sa module. So, dito natin ilalagay kung ano ba yung magiging topic natin sa buong module na gagawin natin. Okay, pangalawa, subukin. Ito ay naglalaman ng pagsusulit na bago pa man natin sabihin o i-lesson sa kanila yung topic para sa module na to, may uumpisahan tayong pagsusulit para sa kanila para malaman kung hanggang saan yung kaya nila. Ito ay magsisilbing pre-test ng mga bata. Number 3 ay balikan. Ito ay maikling pagsasanay o balik-aral upang matulungan kang maiugnay ang kasalukuyang aralin sa naunang leksyon. Kasi po, para magkaroon ng continuity, ang ating tinuturo, kailangan po nating balikan or i-review muna yung mga bata sa previous topic na natutunan nila. Tsaka tayo pupunta or papasok sa next topic natin. Next is tuklasin. Sa bahaging ito, ang bagong aralin ay ipakakilala sa inyo sa maraming paraan, tulad ng isang kwento, awitin, tula, pambukas na suliranin, gawain, o isang sitwasyon. So, dito, kailangan maging resourceful ni teacher na marami siyang alam na kwento or makakapaghanap siya ng tula o ng awitin na makakarelate yung mga bata. So, halimbawa, kinder ito, hindi naman natin pwedeng bigyan ng OPM song. So, dun muna tayo sa Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, mga ganong level ng mga songs. So, next, suriin. Sa seksyong ito, bibigyan ka ng maikling pagtalakay sa aralin. Dito na po yung lesson proper natin. Layunin nitong matulungan kang maunawaan ang bagong konsepto at mga kasanayan. So, dahil nag-review na tayo, nagkaroon na rin tayo ng introduction sa pamamagitan ng tuklasin, ngayon, dito na natin ipapasok kung ano yung bagong konsepto at mayroong deepening of lesson na mangyayari sa suriin. Ang susunod po ay pagyamanin. Binubuo ito ng mga gawaing para sa malayang pagsasanay upang mapagtibay ang iyong pag-unawa at mga kasanayan sa paksa. So dito po, itatanong na sa inyo kung ano yung mga na-lesson natin. Ang mga ilalagay natin dito ay pag-check kung naintindihan ba ng bata ang mga nilagay natin doon sa module natin. Susunod po ay isaisip. Ang isaisip ay naglalaman ng katanungan o pupunan ng patlang ng pangungusap o talata upang maproseso kung anong natutunan mo mula sa aralin. Isagawa. Ito ay naglalaman ng gawaing makatutulong sa iyo upang maisalin ang bagong kaalaman o kasanayan sa tunay na sitwasyon o realidad ng buhay. So, dapat po relevant sa pang-araw-araw nating ginagawa yung nilalaman nung part ng isagawa. Susunod po, tayahin. Ito ay gawain na naglalayong matasa o masukat ang antas ng pagkatuto sa pagkamit ng natutuhang competency. Susunod, karagdagang gawain. Sa bahaging ito, magdadagdag tayo ng mga gawain kasi gusto po nating madagdagan yung assessment nila or kung mga may kailangan pa ba tayong itanong doon sa tungkol sa module. Next, susi ng pagwawasto. Ito'y mapag-uusapan nyo naman kung nais nyong ilagay ang parting ito. Kasi syempre, baka makita ng mga bata at kopyahin na lang yung sagot. So, nasa sa inyo po yun. Okay, so sa ating ginagawang module, guided po tayo ng MELC. Kung saan ito ang halimbawa ng quarter 1 natin. Meron tayong content standard, performance standard, MELC, and sub-competencies. Ngayon, gagawa po tayo ng halimbawa ng isang module sa isang session. So, ito ang quarter 1. Ngayon, pumunta po tayo sa quarter 2. Bibigyan ko po kayo ng panahong magbasa ng quarter 2 bago tayo pumunta doon sa ating sample module writing. Okay. Ngayon po, subukan po nating sundan ang example o halimbawa ng module na binigay natin dito. So, dun sa module 1, maaari mo siyang lagyan ng topic, main topic na sino ba ako? Kasi mas tumutukoy ito sa pagkatao ng isang tao, pagkilala sa kanyang pagkatao. So, pwede nating gawan ng title na sino ba ako? Who am I? So, ngayon, i-explain natin sa alamin na sa module na ito, ang bata ay magkakaroon ng pag-unawa sa konsepto ng pamilya. Ngayon, ilalagay po natin kung gusto nating isang linggo or sa isang linggo gusto nyo ng 5 topic or 4 na topic base doon sa MELC na meron tayo, pwede nyo pong i-subcategorize yung bawat topic na meron tayo. So, dito ang ginawa ko for session 1 ay ako at ang aking sarili. For session 2 naman, ako at ang aking pamilya. Sa session 3, ako at ang aking komunidad. At sa session 4, sapat ako. So, yun po yung mga itatakal ninyo sa loob ng isang linggo. So, pwede nyo pong lagyan ng main title, yung theme ninyo, para po mas klaro kung ano at specific talaga yung ililesson natin araw-araw sa mga bata. So, sunod. So, sa session 2 po ang ating i-discuss. Ako at ang aking pamilya. So, ang content standard ay ang bata ay nagkakaroon ng pag-unawa sa konsepto ng pamilya. Habang ang performance standard po ay ang bata ay nakapagpapamalas ng pagmamalaki at kasiyahang makapagkwento ng sariling karanasan bilang kabahagi ng pamilya. Sunod, ang most essential learning competency natin ay nakapagpapamalas ang pagmamalaki at kasiyahang makipagkwento ng sariling karanasan bilang kabahagi ng pamilya. Sa sub-competencies po natin, meron tayong una, unawain ang konseptong pamilya. Pangalawa, na ilalarawan ang mga karanasan na may kinalaman sa pagtutulungan ng pamilya at paaralan. Number 3, letter C, pag-usapan ang mga miyembro ng pamilya, mga alaga, mga laruan, mga pagkain o kaya mga miyembro ng komunidad gamit ng iba't ibang pang-uri. So ngayon, meron tayong isa dyan, yung pang-uri. Kaya dapat po naka-incorporate din yung pang-uri doon sa topic natin na ako at ang aking pamilya. Ngayon, yung next na part po ng ating module ay subukin. Ito ay halimbawa lamang, hindi na cover dito yung lahat ng nabanggit sa unang page natin. So, susubukin, sasagutan natin ang mga sumusunod na tanong kasi ito po ay pre-test. So, halimbawa nito ay, syempre maglalagay po muna tayo ng direksyon kung paano gagawin ng bata yon. Ang susunod nun ay magtatanong na tayo. So, pang-ilang bilang ka sa inyong pamilya? Kasi mahalaga yon. Maraming bata ang hindi nakakaalam kung pang-ilan ba siya sa family nila. Pangalawa, ano ang paborito mong gawin kasama ng iyong pamilya? So, dito may involvement na yung family sa kanyang pag-iisip. So, susunod po natin na part ay balikan. So, yung balikan, sino ako or yung who am I? So, ang nakaraang aralin, sasabihin po natin dito kung ano ang kahalagahan ng nakaraang aralin at kung paano siya maikokonekta doon sa bagong aralin. So, yun po ang isusulat natin. Ito ang halimbawa. So, sa nakaraang aralin, ang kahalagahan ng iyong pangalan ay, so isusulat po o dudugtungan natin. Or pwedeng mahalagang malaman at isapuso ang kahalagahan ng ating pangalan upang mas makilala natin ang ating sarili. Kasi syempre, kung binubuli ka o tinutukso ka dahil ang pangalan mo ay hindi ganun kaganda. So, at least mailagay po natin sa utak at puso ng mga estudyante natin na lahat sila ay unique o mahalaga po ang kanilang mga pangalan na dinadala. Sa ganung paraan, kung may mangbubuli man sa kanila, ay nakatatak na sa isipan nila na mahalaga yung pangalan ko, so hindi ako kailangan maging apektado. So, ang susunod po natin ay tuklasin. Sa tuklasin, maaring ito ay sa pamamagitan ng pagtatanong or sa pamamagitan naman ng pagpapagawa sa kanila ng mga bagay na konektado doon sa ating topic. So, ang halimbawa, sagutan ng mga tanong na sumusunod. Una, sino-sino ang mga kasama mo sa bahay? Pangalawa, sino ang pinakamasayahin sa inyong pamilya? At pangatlo, iguhit ang membro ng iyong pamilya. So again, pwede nyo po yung dagdagan base doon sa MELC natin at sa mga nakakontain din doon. Susunod po ay tuklasin. Dito, maaari na nating umpisahan ang ating lesson kasi nagkaroon na tayo ng motivation, nagkaroon na ng adjustment, at kinonect na natin yung kahalagahan ng dati nilang panag-aralan sa pag-aaralan nila ngayon. Sa tuklasin po, maaari natin itong gawin sa pamamagitan ng kwento, ng kanta, ng tula, o kung ano pa man ang maaari nating gawin para ma-engage natin yung mga bata sa ating aralin sa araw na ito. So, halimbawa po dito ay magkakaroon kayo ng maikling kwento tungkol sa pamilya. So, yun yung tuklasin. So, dahil mayroong nakalagay doon na pang-uri, maaari nating gamitin ang mga pang-uri sa pagkukwento para na touch po natin yung tungkol sa pamilya at tungkol sa pang-uri. Next, suriin. So, sa suriin po, dito natin ilalagay kung ano yung kahalagahan ng lesson natin. So, halimbawa dito ay, ang pamilya ay binubuo ng ama, ina, ng anak, or kung ano pa man po ang gusto nyong idugtong. At kung ano po yung nais ninyong iparating o ipahatid sa mga bata na ideya. So, halimbawa niyan ay mahalaga ang pamilya dahil, so si teacher na po ang maglalagay kung ano po yung nais niyang iparating na mensahe doon sa estudyante at kung ano po yung naayon sa lesson na yon. So, yun po ang suriin. Next, pagyamanin. So, sa pagyamanin po, ito ay naglalaman ng mga questions, mga tanong na maaaring mag-isip ang bata at mas maintindihan niya kung ano ba yung aralin sa araw na iyon. So, halimbawa dito, sino-sino ang mga kasama mo sa bahay? Iguhit ito sa loob ng 5 minuto. So, dito magdodrawing na yung bata, hindi lang siya nagbasa, kundi ngayon, siya na mismo yung gumagawa, ini-involve na natin siya. Next, isa-isip. Dito sa isa-isip, ito yung mga bagay or mga kailangan nating tandaan sa ating lesson. Maaaring ito ay nasa fill in the blank or punan ang patlang. Halimbawa, ang patlang ang tinatawag na ilaw ng tahanan. So, kung na-discuss nyo po yun or napag-aralan doon sa inyong kwentong ginawa, maaari nyo siyang itanong dito. Ang pangalawa, ano ba yung pang-uri? Pwede po siyang pangungusap. So, una, pwedeng fill in the blank. Next, pwedeng statement. So, ang pang-uri ay salitang ginagamit tuwing naglalarawan o nagbibigay turing sa pangalan o panghalip. Maaari din po siyang sila ang sumagot doon sa isa-isip. So, mahalaga ang pamilya dahil sila ang ating nakakasama araw-araw. So, or pwedeng mahalaga ang pamilya dahil tapos sila po ang pasagutin natin. So, sa isa-isip po, pwede siyang iba't ibang approach para lang malaman natin. Pwede siyang teacher ang nagbibigay kung ano yung gusto niyang target ng bata na matutunan or pwedeng bata ang sumagot. Yun po yung ating isa-isip para po matandaan nila. Susunod, isagawa. So, ito ay gagawin nila on a practical note. So, yung nakikita nila araw-araw or komunidad or kung anything na involved sila doon sa ginagawa nila, yun yung isagawa. So, halimbawa, gumuhit ng larawan ng iyong pamilya at ang madalas nilang ginagawa. So, kasali ka doon kasi ikaw yung nakakakita sa pamilya mong yun, so alam mo. Kaya may excite yung bata kasi dito, kasali siya doon sa ginagawa niya. Ang susunod po ay tayahin. So, sa tayahin naman, dahil tapos na natin ang buong module, ang gagawin naman natin dito ay magkuquiz na or meron ng pagsusulit na mangyayari para makita natin kung natuto nga ba yung mga bata. So, halimbawa nito, dahil kailangan nating matutunan yung pang-uri, pero kailangan din nating matutunan yung tungkol sa pamilya, pagsasamahin natin sila ngayon, i-integrate natin yung family at yung pang-uri. So, halimbawa, mabuting tao ang aking ama. So, piliin ang pang-uring ginamit sa pangungusap. Ano po yon, mga teacher? Okay, number 2. Tahimik ang aming bahay. So, ano ulit ang pang-uring ginamit sa pangungusap? And number 3, kapag nagluluto si nanay, busog silang lahat. Kayo na po yung sumagot. Ano po yung pang-uring ginamit natin sa pangungusap? So, ang susunod po ay ang karagdagang gawain. So, sa karagdagang gawain, magdadagdag tayo ngayon ng mga gagawin ng mga bata para kung hindi kayo satisfied sa mga sagot nila sa unahan, baka hindi lang nila yun naintindihan at maging basihan nyo yung karagdagang gawain kung sakaling nakulangan kayo sa puntos nila, pwede kayong magdagdag dito or baka mas maintindihan nyo kung ano yung pangangailangan nila dito sa karagdagang gawain. So, halimbawa, gamit ang mga pang-uri, bumuo ng pangungusap tungkol sa pamilya. So, dito nagbigay lang ako ng 4, pero bahala po kayo kung nais nyo magbigay ng mas marami. Halimbawa dito, masunurin, magalang, mapagbigay, maalalahanin. So, gagamitin nyo ng mga bata. Kapag nasagot to ng isang bata na mas magaling, so, malamang mataas po yung high level yung capacity niya sa pagsagot ng ganito. Pero kung may mga bata na hindi makasagot nito, maaari natin ngayong i-revise yung module natin sa mas level nila na knowledge. Okay. So, ang susunod po natin, kailangan ngayon po nating alalahanin din na sa paggawa ng questions sa ating module, kailangan na sa iba't ibang level din tayo ng pag-create ng ating mga itatanong. So, nandito po ang basihan ng Bloom's Taxonomy. So, we have the old version ng 1956 at meron po tayong new version from 2001. So, sa new version po, ang pinaka mababa ay remembering o pag-alala. Dito, ang mga tanong lamang ay sino, saan, kailan, ilista, at ano. Kapag yun po ang mga verb doon sa ating mga tanong, yan po ay remembering. Pero hindi natin maaring gawin na lahat ng question ay remembering lang. Ito po ang kalagahan ng discussion natin ngayon. Kasi syempre may mga bata po tayo na mas mataas yung level nila, meron din namang mas mababa. So kailangan gawin natin siyang equal para ma-cater po natin lahat ng ating mga estudyante. Yung pangalawa ay understand o pag-unawa. Sa understand naman, dito po natin maririnig ang mga tanong na bakit, ipaliwanag, paano nagkaiba or paano nagkatulad, or ibigay ang buod at ilarawan. Yun po ang ating understanding or pag-unawa. Ang susunod po ay application or gamitin. Yun po ang ating pangatlong level sa Bloom's Taxonomy. So, anong aral ang iyong natutunan? Magbigay ng halimbawa sa totoong buhay, gamitin sa pangungusap, ipakita kung paano at lutasin ang suliranin. So, yan po yung mga question na pwede nating gamitin kapag tayo po ay gumagawa ng mga tanong sa ating mga tayahin or pagsusulit natin. So, that is for application. Ang susunod po ay analyze o pag-aralan. Dito po, nakikita natin or naririnig ang mga tanong na magbigay ng halimbawa. Ano pa ang kulang? Ano ang dahilan? Ano ang maaaring mangyari? Ilarawan, gumawa ng chart at diagram, o kaya'y paano nangyari ito. Ang susunod po natin ay evaluate or suriin. Tama ba sa iyong palagay? Ano ang iyong gagawin? Kathang-isip ba ito o totoong pangyayari? Sa evaluation po, or sa evaluate, dito po natin na-check kung meron ng judgment yung bata. So, ito yung mga question na nag-a-appear doon sa ganitong level. At ang pinakamataas po ay create or paglikha. Dito naman po ay nakikita natin yung mga tanong na mga pinapagawa na gaya ng lumikha ng tula, lumikha ng awit, lumikha ng kwento, lumikha ng salaysay, ng dula, o di kaya gumuhit, sumayaw, magbigay ng ibang pamagat, magbigay ng ibang katapusan ng kwento, gumawa ng isang proyekto, magbigay ng solusyon, o magbigay ng makabagong pamamaraan. So dito po sa create, ito po yung pinakamataas natin at dito natin makikita kung ang bata ay ready ng mag-think outside the box o gumawa ng kanyang sariling direksyon kung ano man po yung kinakailangan ng isang aralin. So, naway may natutunan kayo sa ating module writing and kung meron po kayong tanong, feel free to ask question at willing po ako to answer everyone's question. Maraming salamat sa pakikinig.
Thank you so much, Miss Jerlyn, for that very comprehensive discussion. I believe that our audience on air have learned a lot from it. Again, if you have queries or clarifications about the module writing, just type it in the chat box. Our speaker is ready to answer. For your workshop, our speaker will be posting her instructions on what to do. You may submit your output not later than Sunday night. A link for the submission of your output will be posted in the LRMDS Siargao Facebook and in our group chat. See you this coming Monday for another session. Let's call it a day for now and happy working on your assignment. God bless us all and thank you for joining us.
SDO Siargao, kalidad na edukasyon sa tanan panahon.